Hey guys, welcome back to the Friday Vlog, where we discuss activity that goes on here with the BuzWeaver channel. That includes things like current events, headlines that are in the news, social media, pop culture, technology, and items of interest that come up during the week that allow us to have a little bit of a dialogue. If this is your first time here to the channel, I'd like to welcome you guys here, as well as returning visitors and those on Alt Tech. I want to thank all of you guys for your continued support.
We started off with the Trump slump as the mainstream media is suffering from no longer having orange man bad news. So from the Hill, news ratings, traffic plummet post-Trump. So former President Trump's exit from the White House coincided with a slump in ratings for cable news channels and digital news sites, according to the Washington Post analysis, or better known as the Jeff Bezos newspaper. Data from media tracking firm ComScore, as well as the Nielsen Company, indicated drops in traffic across websites for the Post, which lost roughly 1/4 of its monthly web traffic, as well as the New York Times, which lost roughly 17% of its traffic from January and February. In the cable news rating wars, CNN lost nearly 50% of its primetime audience over the first few months of 2021, according to the Post, while MSNBC lost more than 1/4 and Fox News lost just 6%, causing CNN to lose its briefly won ratings dominance for the month of January. Yeah, guys, it's just one of those days. I'm on like the 25th take of trying to get through this stack of stuff, so bear with me. From the Blaze Media, Donald Trump returning to social media within 3 months on his own platform to redefine the game, Top Aid says. I don't know why they couldn't put says on there, just Top Aid, whatever. This new platform is going to be big. It's going to be bigly, drawing tens of millions of people. So I'm very much looking forward to it. We're not necessarily going to go directly into the data. But suffice to say is I'm very curious if it will be affected as much as, say, Gab and Minds and other alternative sites like BitChute, because, of course, Gab and Minds still doesn't have any payment processors because, of course, we've talked about this many times, that the tech giants, of course, go after the payment processors, the registrars, the web hosting sites to ensure that Gab and other alternative sites have no place to really go, just like we saw with Parlay. You know, they had to go overseas to be able to do their business. Think about that the tech giants are so powerful. Of course, you already know that we've talked about how the tech giants influence even world leaders, but here they are affecting even alternative tech. So I'm very curious to see how Donald Trump will be affected by creating his own platform. And what I thought was kind of funny from the Babylon Bee, this is so funny. So they're joking about the fact that Trump is creating his own social media site, and he has his own unique verification pack for users as Trump verified, not a loser and total disaster. You gotta love it. I absolutely think it's amazing. In entertainment news, Gina Carano was reportedly fired from Fast and the Furious because Universal knew she'd be trouble, or more specifically, they knew she had wrong groupthink. Just when you thought the dust was beginning to settle over the dispute between Gina Carano and her former employers at Disney, an entirely new can of worms was opened when it was revealed that the Mouse House had pulled an episode of the Discovery Channel's survival series, Running Wild with Bear Grylls, that featured the former Cara Dunn as a guest star. So they saw Gina Carano as a problem because she would not comply to the Hollywood status quo. She would not change her pronouns on her Twitters. And so, of course, they had to go after her and continue to try to cancel her, as well as the outrage mob just trying to make her life as difficult as possible. One of the biggest stories this week here in the States, of course, was out of Boulder, Colorado, and the very tragic events that happened there. But among that story, there was a side story because the mainstream media, the Twitterati, the intersectionality, identitarianism, critical race theory crowd jumped all over this as soon as the officers pulled this individual out and the media was able to see him visually. And then they jumped on this, and I'm calling this the kind of Covington Kids Nicholas Sandman 2.0. I would encourage you guys to check out the Newsmax tweet here in a segment from Rod Schmidt to kind of get an idea of what this all is. This is basically what we talk about here on the channel, the culmination of all these individuals just waiting for an opportunity, waiting for a crisis to happen to be able to jump on social media and plug their leveraging, plug their identitarianism, their intersectionality, their critical race theory, their whole game that they play. Here from Vice President Kamala Harris's niece, Mina Harris, and I'm going to read this verbatimly. Hopefully it won't throw me off. I deleted a previous tweet about the suspect in the Boulder shooting. I made an assumption based on his being taken into custody alive and the fact that the majority of mass shootings in the U.S. are carried out by white men. And as Jack Posobiec said here, so you lied. So she couldn't wait to jump on this. Now, we're not going to look at her previous posts because, of course, she deleted them because, of course, she was embarrassed by the fact that she jumped the gun, as it were, no pun intended, to be able, of course, to rile this up, to rile up the base. And this is the way the left and the progressives operate. They don't have any particular set goal. They have no particular set plan. The idea is to keep everything in chaos so that people can't get any sort of footing, any sort of comfort, because as long as they're upset, as long as they're mad, as long as they're miserable, they need everyone else to be as equally miserable as they are. We jump over here to Amy, and she says the shooter was taken into custody. In other words, it was almost certainly a white man again. If he were black or brown, he would be dead. Now, this could not be any more incorrect because we found out exactly who this individual was. Once his name was posted, these people went into a panic and started deleting, started, changing, the mainstream media even went into this. As I said, if you watch Smith's article from Newsmax segment, from the Newsmax segment. So it's not particularly surprising. I'm sure you guys all know this. But nonetheless, guys, that was one of the stories. I didn't want to go overly sarcastic and cynical in that because of the, obviously a very major tragedy. But it's just sad to see these individuals are still doing this, even though their guy, as it were, which I don't know whether or not Joe Biden is actually their guy, it was really not Trump crowd trying to just rile up individuals yet again. From metro.co.uk news, people trying to leave UK for holiday for next week face £5,000 fine. Attempting to leave the UK without a reasonable excuse could land Brits with a £5,000 fine, according to new C virus regulations. The new measure, entitled the Health Protection C Virus Restriction Steps England Regulations 2021, wow, what a mouthful, will come into force from March 29th. Guys, I cannot tell you how much I have struggled to get through this Friday vlog. Thank you so much for hanging in there. This is like my 25 millionth take in the whole thing, doing the whole thing. They state that attempting to leave England to travel outside the UK or even being at an embarkation point with the purpose of leaving the UK without a reasonable excuse could be punished with up to a £5,000 fine. I like that they use the word punished because that's what the Democrats do here in our country. It isn't about the Constitution or our law. It's about just going about trying to punish everybody that don't agree with them. I just had to throw that in there for no particular reason because I'm just having like the worst day right now trying to do this for you guys. So thank you. Thanks again for hanging in there. Examples of reasonable excuses include traveling for work, volunteering, studying, legal obligations, medical reasons to give assistance to a vulnerable person, elite sports, attending a funeral, or going to a wedding, or going to the wedding or civil partnership of a close family member. So there you have it, guys. A stack of stuff. I couldn't have picked the worst day to try to give you such an assortment, a potpourri, a cornucopia of information, considering I was struggling so hard through this. But we made it. We've got it. And I hope you guys have enjoyed this kind of different series, a different series of segments this particular Friday.
All right, guys, so that's going to wrap it up for this Friday vlog. Thank you so much for the likes, the shares, and the comments. And as you know, below this video, there are links to my social media as well as Alt Tech. So be sure you go by there and join me there as I release information on social media periodically throughout the day and week. And of course, appearing there on the screen, that would be the channel icon here on YouTube to subscribe, as well as to select notifications. This way you know when there's content here on the channel, as well as the Friday vlog. And I'll see you guys right there behind the camera next week.